So that is my life. It's very chaotic. I'm addicted to creativity. I get bored all the time. But I won't bore you about my boredom today. I will just talk about books. So this is my creative practice in a gist, I guess. So I actually started in design. I wanted to study fine art, but Asian patterns are like no bueno. So here I am. I'm a designer, and it's actually I'm glad that I actually started off my creative practice in design, because I think there's a lot in design that can help us as humans finding purpose. Because it starts off as a practice, as a problem-solving thing. But yeah, as I said, I get bored all the time. So after 8 years working for a publishing house, Penguin Random House, the biggest titan in publishing, commercial publishing in the West, I started making art because why not? And in practicing art and design together, I actually find more meanings, and I actually see more that design actually is a tool of change. But again, I got bored again, and I started walking nature. When I grew up in Surabaya, it was a concrete jungle. It's actually not that different to Saigon, and I actually this is very embarrassing, but I haven't climbed a tree until I was 27 at a park in Sydney. But since then, I have walked many more lands, and Australia actually, if you haven't been, is quite magical. And then I guess with my design work, I do a lot of cookbooks. I also do a lot of art books. I sometimes design festivals, so it's nice to be included within, I guess, the cultural fabric of your city, because you do feel like you could contribute. And it's interesting that even though, and this is maybe a parental trauma, but like, what am I doing with my life? But then sometimes when you see change, things can change through design. That's very nice, and you don't hate yourself as much. And the last bit is publishing. Publishing is interesting because it is a democracy, a tool in a way. You make one thing, and it's quite active if you interact with it, but if you don't want to interact with it, then it's also nothing, and I'll talk more about that later. But, so in the pursuit of discovering the seventh side of a book, we obviously have to talk and play with the core six, which I think I was trying to find what is book design? And actually a friend of mine, and this is a very bad habit, if I'm confused about something, I always call my friend and like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh no, Evi's call again, this is annoying. But one person actually, my friend Paulina, sent me an article actually by Kenya Hara, who said a book is a sculpture of information. I'm like, yeah, actually that is quite true. It's very tactile. And so when I design a book, I first think about its physicality. How do you want it to feel? How do you want humans to interact with it? And then functionality is also something that I think, obviously, if you're using the book medium as art, that's you can do whatever you want. But when it comes to like using book as a tool of information, functionality is the first thing I also thought about. Materiality, again, related to format. How does it feel? How, is it, and actually with materiality, it actually tells a lot of story of the object itself. Where is it produced? In Australia, we actually can't produce much books because we don't have technology, so we always seek out. And I think it's a theme with Australia. We're so far away from everywhere that we have to work extra hard to find connections. The next bit is content. I treat content as design elements as well, and especially, and this hasn't started until one time I got a project and the author just kind of basically brought a folder full of jumble and chaos, and I thought, okay, well, designing is about connecting dots, telling narrative, and I feel like, okay, that's quite a, that's my job, I guess. Grids, I don't have to talk about this a lot because we all love grids. Structure. And the last bit is identity. What is what is this book trying to say? What is, does this book want to be mean, kind, welcoming? So this course 6 is something that I think as designers you would just play with every day. But what I think is elusive is the seventh side. And I'm calling it the alien philosophy because I think when I start doing books and when, I don't know, I want to say like the best book design I've done or the most rewarding projects I've done is when I actually remove myself from the project. And what does that mean is like, I want to be invisible. I don't need to be there. And usually it starts with, curiosity. It's so, everyone says we love curiosity, but what is curiosity is actually, for me, it's about finding the frictions. It's about finding the conversation. And that hopefully will then create openness because, like once you start budging head with people and you keep going, you actually break the boundaries and you get to then explore new areas which create space. And when you start having space, possibilities start to open. And I think as designers, sometimes we forget, we like structure, we like order, and sometimes we add too much maybe, but then I feel like with oddities and unusualness, I love to embrace that. I love to find space within a project or a book in layout, even though things don't match, I will try to find a space for it. And so what does that mean? Like, so when we start talking and, symbiosis, like what I meant by that, but I feel like in book design, because of the internet and technology, it's so complex. People don't just read line by line or word by word, but it's our ability to process things are way more non-linear, multi-linear, I guess. Yeah, and there are visuals and text. They all come into good sounds. So let's do some examples. Designing a book, designing a universe. In commercial publishing, I do a lot of cookbooks. And with cookbooks, often it's it's Microsoft Word doc, 50 pages for 50 recipes and some photography. So this project was interesting in the sense that it's a bit problematic in the sense that it's a Japanese cookbook written by a MasterChef winner who lives in London and came from Texas. He's so white. I mean, his wife is Japanese, but in a way, we have to develop something that's true to him, but it is not his culture. But it needs to be respectful. Like, what does that look like? So, the book itself, the series itself, has 7 titles now. And I think when you're designing for commercial publishing, you have to design something that the general audience like. When you have a design brief and you have to list brief, because it's like it has to appeal to everyone. That's my job day to day when it comes to publishing. And I asked the publishers yesterday, this series has been going on for 10 years now, and there are 250,000 copies out there in US and UK alone, and it's been translated into like a few more languages, German, French, and Korean actually, and Japanese too. How can we be respectful to this? And so I started thinking, how can I add layers of the author's narrative that are not recipes in a subtle way? And the solution actually was very bold, which the studio started developing illustrations that actually has a third layer in the story. So for example, for Tokyo Stories, the first one that was Looping Man, we were basically obsessing about Tokyo, and the whole book was structured like skyscrapers. So each chapter is level basement would be like Yamashita, like what can you find there? To the top is like the Tokyo skyscrapers, it's like nice bars and stuff. But we then try to imbue pop culture. For example, we've drawn some takoyaki, but then we mixed it with a Dragon Ball thing. And it's kind of like this subtle thing when you add, but you don't really want, if you get it, get it. If you don't, you don't. And that was kind of like the whole topic of this whole series. With the bento one, we actually played around with the idea of the feeling, like kabuki mask. Yeah, so in this project, illustrations actually kind of become as important as photography and topography and the content. And we didn't expect that in the beginning, and it turned into that. So designing a book is also an experiment in connection, which is showcases by this recent project of the studio. It's for this Chinese artist, Chafei, who's an internet artist, and Sydney has invited her to do a retrospective show at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. And a big part of job was show you her work first. So you can see like her work is so multi-dimensional in many ways. And it was quite daunting in the beginning in the sense that like, how do I understand this? And actually, first what I did was playing with colors. Like I was trying to categorize her work with colors. And then what made it important to Sydney was that, oh wow, it's going really fast. It shouldn't be going, sorry guys. But anyway, those are like things that she found in Sydney Chinatown and Sydney Chinatown is going through some sad moments where like it's really empty, it's really dead. So she actually went through like dead cinemas, dead restaurants, and she was capturing all this topography around Chinatown. So this was really fun to me as well. So when I started like collecting what typefaces she found, a lot of them were like really classic early computer days typefaces. So this project started off with topography explorations and so the project was initially called Cyber City, and the aim of the project was actually the monograph needs to be I wanted the monograph to feel like it doesn't look like print nor digital, and it needs to be something that can be found whether in Sydney Chinatown or in the world that Chafei has created. So I went back to this symbol of the conch, kind of like moving the city, but at the same time it looks like yum cha table from Marigold restaurant, and we started there, and actually this was the two concepts that I put forward, this one and this one as well. This is a splinter typeface from Dum Dum Studio, which actually looked like cable tied together transistors, but also like etching file. And she's like, I like both. Can we have them both in the book? I'm like, sure. But, when you start, I think I had two very distinct ideas on how I would want to solve this project, but when she said I want both, then actually I guess the magic started to happen. Oh yeah, the grid is quite mental. It's about 22 grids because I wanted to mix digital and print, and I think with print sometimes maybe we love too much structure. Well, with digital, like the structure is less there, and that's it. So yes. So what does that mean? Trans-dimensional reading experience. So as you saw that, like the finishes, if you see it in real life, is so futuristic. But then as soon as you open, everything is really tactile. Everything is really soft and textural, and it looks kind of like phone books that you can find in Chinatown. So that's it. Two things together, and it's kind of like juxtaposed. But then when you look at Sydney Chinatown, it is that. It is juxtaposition, and the artist Chafei as well, her story kind of started, she started making art out of limitations in the sense she grew up in China, and the internet was her world. So that was also the concept here, like, can we turn this book into like a child-made digital archive? But obviously it's printed. So I spent a lot of hours drawing Windows-style boxes. They all stick in the grid, by the way. So yes, so you see here, it's kind of full on when you look at, looking at this, because, like I was using a lot of digital behaviors as print, and I was really conscious about making sure that things don't feel too static as well. This is the contents page, which is kind of, you get what it is. It's like a dual archive. And then the 5 essays actually were written in very different styles. So, embracing the concept of non-linearity, we developed different grid system, different layouts for each essay. So this one has short paragraphs. We did 2 columns, which kind of feels very urban. And then this is actually my favorite. The writer is kind of like the it boy of Sydney when it comes to writing, and he's known to write really funny stuff. And his writing here is actually quite serious. And I'm like, where is Michael in this? Michael would probably like to come up with fake MIRC chat room writing. So he did this writing. He expanded the essay with fake conversations of these 2 identities, which actually added more layers. So this is what I meant by content design as well. Like, these ideas kind of came because we started designing and we're like, what if we added this layer of things? And obviously you have to work with the artists and curators to make sure they're okay with it. But there were a lot of trust in this project, so we kind of got to do everything we want. Same with this one. This Hoshan Tang was actually writing a lot about world making, and again, we started doing extra layers that might not be logical in a way, but then, like, if you read the text and you see it and it's illustrated, and it's almost like you don't need to read the whole thing, but it's there and you know exactly what it is, even at a glance. And yeah, so the first part of the book is very fun in a way, and then it breaks to something crazy like this. So Chafi was like, I have all this ephemera, which, and this is her during her uni time, and I want this included because this was a very pivotal moment in my life, and I thought what was on there, and she's like, Angel Fire, I'm like, let's go. And the rest of the book was started to become more formulaic, like book design, because we were showcasing her work, and I guess just like in monograph, you have to give the stage to the work. So this is hip hop, and this is the world making. I can't remember the Second Life. So she built a lot of her worlds in Second Lives. This is one of her video works about industrialization in China. This is her documenting a dead teacher in China and recreating memories via work. And then more 3-dimensional. So yes, like in a way, when it comes to dealing with images, sometimes I feel like, oh, it's nice to be a designer, plunking images after images, it's not so hard. And so a book is a democratic time capsule. So I don't know about you, but in the past 2 years, things have been pretty depressing in the world, and I would not lie that I did get depressed. I did get depressed, but luckily I met this man, Tony Albert. So Tony is sorry, I have to read this, is a Giromai Kuku Yalanji man from the rainforest in Queensland, which is northern-ish in Australia. And he has every right to be angry, because in Australia we're very behind when it comes to equality, and I don't know what's wrong with people there. Maybe we're just too far away from everything. Anyway, instead of like being angry, he wants to create conversations and in a way, spread love to progress things, which is very admirable. And I'm like, oh my God, you are actually cool, and maybe I shouldn't be as depressed as I'm working with you now. So this is his monograph. It's titled Not a Souvenir. His practice is a lot about appropriation, all things that colonial culture used to kind of tokenize First Nations culture. So a lot of like, yeah, just bad stuff. Anyway, for this book, this is still in the making and it will be released next year in May. The concept here is actually about embracing tension. So we really just try to make everything looks very alien in a way, because he does call himself an Australian, because he never feels at home even though it's his home. So the strategy here was like basically treating the whole book almost like a lab experiment. There's the silver will be printed in metallic, but the white will be like super white, and we went with the most glossy stuff because we really want people to go deep into understanding what Tony wants to say. And this project has kind of given me hope again, and I'm not so sad anymore these days. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, it's crazy. If you want to learn about Australia, you should just get this book when it's out. There's so much history that is, and I guess, you know what, like when I was talking about the power of design and art has this power that maybe design don't necessarily have, but if you ever thought about, should I start, do I get bored? Try doing art and see what you have to say. It's actually a really fun vehicle. So I also want to talk about us designers trying to do less commissions and more collaborations, in the sense that let's try and design is such a commercial tool in a way, but then when we kind of flip the conversations and we include more people in our process, I kind of feel like things can become more powerful very quickly. And I guess with books, it's once it's done, there are also the work to distribute the book in the world. And I've only started publishing this year. I've published 3 books this year, and I thought, oh my God, this is so much work, trying to do events, which is, I'm not good at organizing. But then that night, people gathered, people discuss ideas. And I thought, you know what, it is the essence of like what we should do in the world. Like when we think about AI and technology, like what Kenya was saying, it's distraction. It's a lot of them is just like I feel like we're most disconnected from each other at the moment. And I think, not that saying, read books and you'll be fine. No, but like I think the meaning here is like, let's be present, let's get it. And when it comes to books, I think it's gonna be here for a while. Because we love books, right? And it's here, and I'm here, and you're here. So thank you.